very warm welcome to Bharata First. I'm Frank Rajan Pereira. This is Big Picture. And since you're here, I would like to thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then all notifications. Do follow our social media handles for all the latest updates, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter to get some incisive content. The Bharata First team runs a daily Big Picture quiz. Please do participate by going through the description in Big Picture videos. Here are the UPI IDs for those of you who would like to come forward and contribute. A small contribution that you make will go a long way in us bringing you this content. So do continue to show your love and support. All the information along with other recommendations are in the description of this video. So please go through it. Now on to the discussion. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has warned messaging application WhatsApp to roll back its new privacy policy implemented with effect from 15th of May. Failing to do which, it will invite action under the country's rules. WhatsApp has been given a week to respond to the notice sent on the 18th of May. Action may be taken against WhatsApp if the government does not receive any satisfactory response. The government believes that the policy and the manner in which it was introduced subvert the values of information privacy, data security, and user choices of Indian users. Back in January, the government had already raised a strong objection to WhatsApp's new privacy policy and termed it to be a unilateral, unacceptable, and unfair change. The freeware's new blueprint aims to share commercial user data from WhatsApp to its parent company, Facebook. In this edition of Big Picture, we will analyze the WhatsApp privacy policy. Joining me on the program today are Shubhimal Bhattacharjee, Cyber Security Analyst, Aishwarya Bhati, Additional Solicitor General of India, and Jitin Jain, Cyber Technology Expert. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of Big Picture. Jitin, let me start the program with you first. Let's understand what is it that WhatsApp wants to change now? How is life going to be different once this privacy policy comes into effect?
Look, Frank, if you look almost 7-8 years ago, WhatsApp was a finished product, an independent entity operating out of Europe, and it was one of the most popular instant messaging apps. And this was the time when Facebook, Google, Microsoft, everybody had failed into those instant messaging messengers. Google came up with Google Talk. Microsoft wanted to have Skype as the primary tool of P2P communication, but nobody could capture that market. So then when you fail to exploit your own product, you end up acquiring a product which already has a market space. So Facebook bought WhatsApp. Now, this was the same time when Snowden revelations had come, and everybody thought that since these companies were cooperating with US NSA for surveillance and intelligence across the world, this was their ploy to have a larger reach of intelligence collection by using WhatsApp. So WhatsApp immediately came up with this whole idea of end-to-end encryption, and there were public announcements by the Facebook, higher officials that WhatsApp will never be merged with Facebook. It will continue to operate as an independent entity. Your data will not be shared with Facebook for any purpose or any other third party. It would continue to operate as a free independent entity. And since Facebook has bought it, you will not have to pay anything. It will be free. But then came an assurance that, okay, we might be sharing mobile number with Facebook so that people can know if your Facebook contacts are with WhatsApp or not. So there was they were going back on their commitments. Then came a time that they said that, look, we are going to collect little bit of metadata because of law enforcement, all those things. Now, finally, it has come to a stage where they are looking at stringent regulations like GDPR in Europe and other parts of the world. And they are also sensing that one of the biggest, WhatsApp markets in the world, like India, might soon have a data privacy law. So to preempt those rules and regulations and data sharing, they are trying to just race ahead and do the entire integration and sharing of data much before the data privacy bill comes in, so that they could say, look, data has already been shared, so there is nothing more to comply. Now, this is this draconian mindset what they are having, and the worst thing is that they have come up policies across Europe. They have a separate policy for Europe. They have a separate policy, a third-rate policy of India, still having a colonial mindset, thinking that we are third world countries. Our data is less valuable than the European ones. More so that now Germany and other European countries have, a couple of them have already banned WhatsApp policy in their countries, and European Union might also do it. Indian IT Ministry has twice written to WhatsApp. This is not in consonance with our IT Act and other values of data privacy and sharing. So what if the data privacy bill is pending in the parliament? You cannot bulldoze over the rights of Indian citizens and just collect data on your whims and fancies. So I think overall picture is that Facebook is now going back to its words. It is trying to collect every possible data and use it for precision advertisement. And and they have literally no respect for Indian law, any sense of natural justice, or even the business sense or values you have, despite of the outcry and whatever criticism they've got in India.
Sure.
Under pressure, they had to delay the policy. Now they have realized that world is busy in the pandemic. World is focusing on different things, especially in India, and they can swiftly, slowly just trick people to click on this policy and go ahead with it. I think last line, they think in this country, entire system can be manipulated. Entire country is literally, I think they think that our bureaucracy is up for manipulation. This is the message which is being sent, and I think it is time for courts to step in.
Okay, it's time for courts to step in is what you're suggesting. The government has decided to take the matter up in the court. Aishwarya Bhati, let me come across to you now. Let's discuss that aspect as well, the legal aspect of this entire issue and where the matter stands.
So, Frank, the petition is already pending before the Delhi High Court, as also the Honorable Supreme Court, as we understand it. But I think this a new perspective is added because of the 14 questions that are there on the public domain, what have been put by the ministry for WhatsApp to answer, and the time has been given till tomorrow actually to answer those, and those are very pertinent and peculiar questions as to so the questions that are asked as to what is the kind of profiling that WhatsApp is doing for the customers, what is the kind of profiling that WhatsApp does for its users across other jurisdictions. We all know, I mean, the European law is in place. Singapore has a law in place. In some of the other autocratic countries, they are actually banning WhatsApp. So they are promoting other, because if the entire population goes, then and it's banned by the country, then there is really very little that the service provider can do. So we have, I mean, Jitinji has very interestingly charted out the whole journey of how WhatsApp started off saying, I mean, standing for something completely different, and how it has been diluted over time in a way so as to completely be in consonant with its initial practices and very basic ideas that it stood for. This is going to be very, very important to note the kind of, because the government has taken it at the highest level, and if they do not fall in line, so far there is no stay, as far as I understand, there is no stay from the courts on the implementation of this policy, but the manner in which WhatsApp appears to be brazenly dealing with this, I think the writing is clear on the wall. It's not going to be far that the stay will be there, because there are a lot of unanswered questions. It has to be, Google did this to Australia when Australia asked Google to pay for the news to the news providers. They said, well, we are just going to go away from Australia. And time has come that social media giants, information technology giants, they feel that they've gotten bigger than sovereign nations, and they have become bigger than the the legal regimes and the rule of law of a country, and they can find a via media around it. Jatinji is absolutely right. The whole focus on this right now is because of the impending data protection law that is already in force, and that is on the lines of the European law and the Singapore law, and therefore they will have to follow those, fall in line with the law. So they're just trying to bring everything down and, throw it down the throat of consumers. And this time it's slightly different than what they did in February, because this time they are saying that if you don't accept it, it's not like we will drop you. So but in that garb, there's nothing else. There's, in fact, precious little that has been changed apart from this one small aspect, as far as I understand it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Suvimal Bhattacharya, let me bring you into the picture now. So are these tech giants taking India for granted? What is it that they want to get out of it? Because they have different laws in different parts of the world. So why not have something uniform? Why take one country for granted and, treat another country differently?
Frank, you see, it's very surprising to see that such a situation is emerging. The government is writing letters. They are quite brazening it out. Take the case of Twitter even, that's the same story that's happening. So if this social media giants think that, in India they can get away, or they can, stretch this to a limit that, they are even coming in the way when courts are intervening in the matter and all, I think from a public policy point of view, we have to be far much more stricter and have to take action. Now let's take this current case. Jiten has well laid out. Apart from the data protection bill that we are still dragging on and on, we cannot bring it out. Maybe we have a point to say that now when the next section of parliament comes, it happens. But even there is a lot of pressure on Facebook as far as the antitrust situation is concerned, even in the US, and the fear of all these acquisitions of Facebook being broken up into separate companies that are very much there, and that's one of the biggest trigger that is pushing WhatsApp. Now the point is that you are business-wise, you are foolish or every way if you are going and targeting and trying to brazen out in a country that has your maximum number of subscribers, and more than the subscriber and the number part, it has become a kind of a way of life for most Indians. People migrated to Signal or Telegram, but that hasn't really picked up. It's having something as a backup. That's the current situation with most of the people whom I ask. So now, writing letters, giving them dates is possibly not working. I think somewhere, as the government took action on the apps, the Chinese apps, somewhere we have to show them that sovereignty and the laws of a sovereign nation rule far much over all these niceties. And of course, formally you have to write, but somewhere that message has to be very, very clearly given, because we are dependent upon WhatsApp because most of the people find it convenient. But somewhere, even if a disruption happens, maybe a 24-hour service stoppage or something like that, I think we should start thinking around that line, because somewhere they are not respecting our sovereignty, our laws, despite knowing very well that this is a free society. This is where people exchange almost everything over their networks and all, and nowhere in the world they would get such a vibrant community in this platform. So I would think a little bit going the extra mile at this stage is very important.
Absolutely. Jiten, let me bring you into the picture and talk about another aspect. This aspect of homegrown apps and getting some kind of an alternative really to apps like Twitter and WhatsApp and all these others, because we tried with Koo, but somehow even I tried using it. The interface is not as smooth as it is on Twitter. Same with WhatsApp as well. People are not making the switch, not because they don't want to. Most of them want to, but they feel that the interface of the new app is not good enough. So in a situation like this, where does the onus lie to bring about some kind of an alternative so that we can switch to and it doesn't become a monopoly? Twitter and WhatsApp speak in these tones because they are a monopoly. They know at the end of the day we need them.
No, this is the entire crux of the argument, Frank. You have nicely put it out that people are not switching not because they don't want to. They do not have a better alternative. So in the case of WhatsApp, Signal is almost is better. I mean, I would say that at least it's usable. The UI may not be that great, but it works your purpose. So majority of you saw 20-30% people shifted over Signal. Now reason of people staying on WhatsApp is that because there are larger people, a larger set of population which is present. So ज़्यादा लोगों से टच में रहना है तो आप उसको कर रहे हैं. Now this is the reason Facebook knows that they have to ensure that they continue to hold and dominate the market by creating literally a monopoly and quell every other startup, small app initiative. Frank, I mean, because this is Bharata First and we always have frank discussions on the show. Tell me in which democracy a private company can fund proxies, lobbies, put out white papers to influence public opinion, public policy, pressurize government, run misinformation like Google did in Australia and what WhatsApp and Facebook have been doing in India. Aishwarya ji said that they are saying that we will not force anyone. At the behind what they are saying is that we will continue to degrade the features and one fine day might block. They know that if they block today, somebody will go to court. And every day, at least 20 times, they show up a pop-up that please click on this policy. Let me tell you, 90% people, as per their own estimates, have already clicked. Not because they knew what is written in the policy, because by chance or by mistake, some kid will click yes, and it is gone. So what you are doing is literally forgery and 420 cheating. A policy which was not subscribed by a majority of population, you can't trick them into do something. And this is the very issue data protection bill deals with, that the consent has to be explicit. The concerns had to be specific. You cannot use data for any other purpose for your wills and fancies. So this is just an attempt to preempt everything. And for an example, I'll tell you, first they came, they said that we want to secure your lives and we will put up cameras on the streets so that you can catch thieves. This is what they said, that we want to make your life easier. We are giving you free service. Once they got the enough infrastructure and eyes on everyone on the street, they turned those cameras from road to your home, into your bedrooms. Now they are saying, look, this was always there. Now we just want to change a small policy. It is not about peeping into your bedroom. It is just about turning the angle of camera. And we are not forcing anyone. Anybody who does not object is already taken for it. I mean, and I agree with Subimal. Governments are here to govern. They are here to, discharge sovereign duties, even if they have to issue directions and orders. Governments cannot be seen writing letters to big tech and then giving another dates. It is literally surrendering your sovereignty into the hands of a private company. If this day has come, and this is same with Twitter, a private company gets up and says that post of politician A is manipulated and B is not. What made you decide that? Did you run a fact check? Did you hold an investigation? Did you go and investigate? Did you look at the papers? Did you send it to a forensic lab? Did you do the forgery analysis? Did you call a signature expert? But it is a political convenience that you hire a proxy entity which says it is fake, and you say that since they have said it is fake, we are marketing manipulated. And when the government writes that don't do it, you simply raise hands and this is against our policy. So what is happening in India, that big techs are trying to convey to the government that your sovereign laws, your sovereign parliaments, your sovereign policies are subservient to our company's policies and our business gains. And I think we must put an end to this before things become too late. This is a tiger. We must get off now. Otherwise, it will be very, very late.
Absolutely. Aishwarya Bhati, coming back to you now. Let's talk about the data privacy bill and let's talk about what are the options really to put an end to this menace, as if we can call it that, because clearly it's more than that. But let's give it an easy term and call it a menace. And how do we deal with it from a legal perspective?
So, Frank, the data protection bill, of course, it's still a bill. It's still under consideration. But I have seen that draft up close, and it is in alignment with the best practices of the world, which is understood to be the European model and the Singapore model. So far as the data of the consumer is concerned, it's specifically the consents and permissions have to be specific. In fact, that is one of the questions that the government has asked, that what exactly is the kind of consents and permissions that you're taking from the consumers. Also, it cannot be unlimited. It has to be purposive. It has to be for a limited period, and there has to be an option of opting out. So those are very clear, the regime that has laid down in the Data Protection Act. And though WhatsApp must be, of course, they are smart companies, big data, big tech is smart companies, but they should know better that to deal to confront a sovereign country, that to a country like India, which is, you can't just undermine India but because of the sheer size of, our demography, the future, what really is the potential of this country, and also because we are a strong, stable, robust democracy with rule of law. So, Jitinji said a lot about government not writing letters, etc. But even government is tied by the concept of rule of law. They have to follow. Of course, I'm not saying this just because I'm a law officer. I'm not really dealing with this matter so far in the courts. So I'm not really privy to what is the stand of the government on the affidavits. But the aspect is that even if there is no interference now, it's not like WhatsApp will not have to fall in line in terms of the data protection law, even if it comes a little later. It's not like the data protection law will allow everything else that fell out of the fringes before the data protection law gets, not like retrospective application, but everything else will have to fall in line. It's not like, these regimes can continue to exist out of law. Right now, that regime is not in place. That is why probably the steps are being taken cautiously. But our courts of law are competent enough. And now, in the light of the privacy judgment, Frank, the Constitution bench has already recognized privacy as a fundamental right. So, even in the absence of a data protection bill having been the force of law, that the concept of privacy being recognized as a fundamental right, part 3 rights are very, very strong. You can't even there's no waiver that is available against a part 3 right. Like, you can't, for example, say that I'm taking somebody's life and liberty because he has waived it to me. No, that waiver also does not apply to part 3 rights. So that robust mechanism in the form of part 3 rights is already available, and interjection has to be made either by the government or by the courts of law.
Absolutely. So, Vimal, talking about another aspect now, many people don't even understand this issue of privacy and data and what's going to happen to this data, and why are we making such a big deal about it? Because our data is anyways free to use for anyone. That's the general sense and the consensus that people have. From a cyber security perspective, what happens to this data? Why is it important that we protect this data? Why should our data be safe in our hands?
Absolutely, and that brings me also to the point that data is a new oil, data is a new gold. These possibly still remain a drawing room or a corporate boardroom concept. It just doesn't trickle down, because the ordinary man, he is really not concerned that his data is becoming part of a large, either a botnet that's going to operate somewhere, or the predator marketing that you see all through, which even these platforms could be guilty of, using all the AI and machine learning tools. But having said so, I think that's where the catch is. That's where the data protection, the personal data protection bill being enacted is very important. Let us understand also that there is no vacuum at this point of time, because the bill is not there. Even the provisions of the IT Act with the privacy judgment of the Supreme Court and the IT rules notified, I think they still have a point where these people can be taken care of. But from a security point of view, I think this accumulation of data that is happening at multiple places by these organizations, data mining them, getting them into marketing trolls, or even deep down into the dark web, I think these are worries that already from a cybersecurity perspective and a policy perspective, we have to think and we have to be acting upon. Every few days now you are seeing attack. The Air India data hack that went off today, another incident has been there. So if these are the kind of situations that don't trigger action at the highest level to be able to make the real understanding and the concern in the society, and then take it down to the individual, because by and large a lot of people today still remain fascinated with their entry and access to the digital world through their mobile or whatever devices. They don't really much care or understand about what is a security perspective, or how they themselves are bringing threat to themselves because of that. So we have to, from a societal perspective, from a governmental perspective, every way we have to ensure that somewhere that security angle is also imbibed down to a larger section of the people, so that they know what they share, they know how to protect their data. And of course, on top of all of that, the encompassing law and the institutional mechanism to deal with that. That's very, very important. Even the draft bill that was there, the provisions that came initially, they were really good. They would cover a lot of the situations that could emerge. And even here in this case, Frank, if you see, Facebook could have earned a lot of goodwill if on its own it took a effort to see that their main concern that they were saying they wanted to change the privacy points was they wanted to link it to a business account. Now, those who have an interest to get into that business aspect with Facebook, you keep them separate. And for those who only use it for their own purposes, why do you want to take their data? Build a separate app for them, where in the world they would have lost those customers, but they would have earned a goodwill that even before India is implementing such a law, we have shown our respect for the larger good or a larger common cause, and we have done something like it. It is not, they're brazening it out. And where from that courage comes to brazen out against a sovereign nation, when the Supreme Court, when the High Court of Delhi, when the Competition Commission of India are seized of the matter, Isn't it, something really worrisome? They can hire the best of the lawyers. They have lobbyists to everyone. Is this what we also want to create the whole digital space? Going to be one of the largest digital space of the country. China is always blocked and on its own. But here, this is the most open digital society, and this is where these big platforms come and try to just spoil the whole dynamics of the system. So that's where
Absolutely.
a lot of stuff thinking has to an action has to happen from the government side.
True, very rightly said. Quick closing comments now from all my panelists with the best way forward, starting first with you, Jitin.
Frank, even if we get a stay, my advice is to the government now, it is that they have to amend the petition and say that in case the courts are to grant any relief or ban this policy, the data which has been collected, additional data which has been collected because of this new accepted policy by the people who have accepted, should be retrospectively deleted. You see, this is the whole ploy, that even if courts grant a stay, they have already collected data of 95% users. So I think data has to be deleted with retrospective effect, and that has to be an additional thing. Or to sum up, I think Aishwarya would know well what a sorry situation we have. Union government files an affidavit in Delhi High Court saying that WhatsApp's new policy is the violation of IT Act in India, and the former IT minister under whom IT Act was drafted is appearing for WhatsApp. I think it sends such a sorry situation, and this country, anybody and everybody can be bought. I think probably I believe that as a former IT minister, Mr. Sibal should not have appeared for WhatsApp, at least in this matter. I think it is an issue of national pride, our national sense of belonging. If we see our former IT ministers appearing for these, data giants trying to quell rights of your own citizens, it doesn't send a very good message across the world.
Absolutely. I think the people will
It should be
decide.
Bharata first.
It should be Bharata first, and all these things will be decided in the people's court. So that is something that we don't have to worry about. Hopefully, the people will see through all of this. So, Aishwarya ji, closing comments.
I just want to remind everyone of one thing that just happened in this month in US. US had to bring in an emergency legislation to deal with the data hack that happened to a pipeline that was bringing not just petrol, diesel, gasoline, etc., but jet fuel. And overnight, an emergency. I mean, we've all heard about the Britannica Analytica stories, etc., how they have been influencing voters, etc. But this was one example of, and the hackers very seemingly innocuously says, well, we didn't want to inconvenience anybody, we just wanted to make money. And it's that data breach and data hack that actually brought a country like US to its knees. Emergency legislation, road transports, we all saw what happened. So data, I mean, Subimal ji has already pointed out, we know it, yet we tend to ignore our eyes to it, that we can't be complacent about our data, because it's not one person's data alone. When the data collectively of the entire community, the entire nation, the entire geography gets together, that's where the strength is, and that strength cannot be allowed to subvert the sovereign existence that the nation has.
Absolutely. And so we might close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
Yeah, Frank, I would think that, to whatever I've said, I would also add that, from the diplomacy perspective also, I think we have to take it up with the US about, the belligerence with which these platforms have started, taking on the government. I think a lot of the discussions on the trade aspects with the US also center around, the data protection bill and laws, which I am aware of. And besides that, the fact that that they are also confronting and trying to take their own legislators, the Federal Communication Commission, they are all taking on this. I think somewhere a common ground has to be made, that we cannot become a one-sided entity who will bear the brunt of all these things. After all, the partiality of these platforms have been seen when it comes to the more stringent Europeans, or even to the current threats that the US is posing. So I think that diplomatic effort around reining these tech giants, that also has to happen.
So we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. Well, what's coming out of this discussion is that we need better laws and an institutional mechanism to deal with the problem at hand. We should also formulate better policies to deal with the security aspects of data. The government should come down hard on tech companies that don't abide by local laws and take a brazen approach. Even if the courts intervene and the matter is resolved in the general public's favor, we should ensure that the data that has already been gathered should be restored retrospectively. Data is the new gold, is being used only in boardrooms and hasn't trickled down to the common man. The government should make people aware about how important data is. Once again, thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then all notifications. Do follow our social media handles for all the latest updates, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter to get some incisive content. The Bharata First team runs a daily Big Picture quiz. Please do participate by going through the description in the Big Picture videos. Here are the UPI IDs for those of you who would like to come forward and contribute. A small contribution that you make will be a giant leap for us to keep bringing you this content. So do continue to show your love and support. All the information along with other recommendations are in the description of this video. So please go through it. That's it from me. See you again next time.